An important conversation that we've been having on the show over the last year is in regard to politics and left politicians is, can you really say you support a policy, you support a position, if you never actually fight for it? And in analyzing this question and trying to come up with an answer, it's led me to believe that, or to the conclusion that, Bernie Sanders and AOC and the Justice Democrats, all these elected progressives, Pramila Jayapal, Cori Bush, Jamal Bowman, they don't actually support the policies that they say they do, that they pay lip service to. And because of that, they aren't actually leftists. They're really just kind of neoliberal incrementalists. They are defending the status quo, and they just want to make it less harmful, slightly less harmful to regular people. And so they want to make tweaks around the edges. You can't say you support single payer. You can't say you support Medicare for all. Yet when the time comes to and you actually have the opportunity to force a vote on it, you don't do it. And in fact, during this entire pandemic, during this entire economic crisis, you haven't fought to introduce that, or you haven't fought for that policy to be implemented. You've just gone along with whatever the Democratic position is on healthcare, which has been, let's give some more money for COBRA subsidies, and let's give some subsidies to the for-profit private health insurance companies. That has been the Democratic position in regards to healthcare during this entire pandemic. And has Bernie Sanders come out and rebuked that and actually fought for single payer, which is what this moment calls for? No, they have not. So don't tell me they actually believe in Medicare for all, because like I said, it's been a year and they've all just gone along with shitty COBRA subsidies and subsidies to the private health insurance industry. So hey, what else? What other takeaway can I have other than, hey, they actually kind of agree with that shit, and that's what they're fighting for, minor tweaks to Obamacare in the for-profit health insurance industry, because they aren't actually fighting for single payer. The same with UBI and the monthly stimulus checks. They all say it. Oh, yeah, UBI would be great, man. So great. It'd be wonderful. They tweet about it. But what have they actually done to fight for it? What leverage have they used? What power? And they do have the leverage and they do have power to make these demands in negotiations and to do public pressure campaigns to shame the Democratic leadership into supporting these policy positions. They have the power to do that as the most popular members of Congress. 10 million, AOC alone has 10 million Twitter followers. What have they done? What have they done? How have they used their position as Congress people to fight for UBI? They haven't. All they've done, like I said, all he's done is tweet about it and write amendments that they know are dead on arrival and not really put any type of pressure on Democratic leadership to actually implement those policies. Instead, what we've seen, their actions show that the position they support in terms of economic assistance or cash assistance to the public is means-tested, neoliberal, austerity-driven means testing of one-time checks. That's what they support. That's what they continually vote on. They did it in the CARES Act with the shitty means-tested $1,200 check. They did it after 10 months of negotiations. They voted for another shitty means-tested $600 check. All the while, they know that millions of people do not qualify for those means-tested checks. They know that millions of people do not qualify for unemployment. So they've been left for dead by the government for over a year. They know all these things, but again, what have their actions showed? Their actions showed that at the end of the day, they're actually in agreement. Hey, let's pass some means-tested checks. Let's do that because that's what they voted on. And they haven't actually fought for Medicare for UBI monthly recurring checks. So Krystal was doing a video or a segment on Rising with Sagar and Jetty, and they were criticizing Joe Biden for backpedaling on Medicare on the $15 minimum wage, because the Democrats are going to pass this bill through budget reconciliation, the stimulus bill. They can put anything they want in there. They could put UBI in there. They could put, this is me talking, not Krystal Ball. I'm saying they could put UBI, they could put Medicare for all. They could put anything they want in there. But they said that they would put the $15 minimum wage increase in the stimulus bill and pass it through budget reconciliation. And immediately, the Emperor King Joe Manchin came out and said, I will not support a $15 minimum wage in the stimulus bill. And then Joe Biden, President of the United States, leader of the Democratic Party, literal head of the Democratic Party that controls the House, the Senate, and the White House. That same Joe Biden, leader of the Democratic Party, he, instead of putting pressure on Joe Manchin to do the bare fucking minimum and support a $15 minimum wage increase over like 5 years, instead of doing that, shaming Joe Manchin and raising hell to pressure Joe Manchin into supporting it, Joe Biden comes out and does an interview. He says, you know what? Looks like it might not be in there. And then, of course, people on the left were saying, okay, so you're full of shit and you didn't actually support a $15 minimum wage. You were just saying that to get elected and because you know it's popular and you know it sounds good and you just wanted a round of applause. But at the end of the day, you have the opportunity to do it. You have the power to fight for it. You have an actual moment to get it passed, and you are sitting idly by and you're going to let the moment pass and you aren't going to do anything to get it. So a lot of people on the left are saying, you don't actually support it. And Krystal Ball made this argument. But in that, she inadvertently is making the argument for why a lot of us have been calling them the fraud squad and calling Bernie Sanders the sellout. Because if you actually believe in those policies you pay lip service to, you'd be fighting for them instead of rolling over at every opportunity. So I have that clip. It's very interesting because I swear, you just replace Joe Biden's name with Bernie Sanders or AOC and replace $15 minimum wage with UBI or Medicare for all. It is the most solid argument you could ever make as to why it's correct to call them the fraud squad. So I have the clip, but first, you already know the deal. If you're able to contribute to the show, I have the links to Patreon in the About page. You can sign up and do monthly subscriptions. I also have a link to PayPal in the About page of the YouTube channel if you feel more comfortable doing a one-time contribution. And I'm incredibly grateful for all the people who have contributed over the last couple of months. You guys really help out the show, and you guys help me do what I love. And I'm also grateful for all the people who are still coming in and joining, and people who've been here for a while, watching the videos, sharing the videos, commenting. I know, yes, I do read all the comments. You all help out the show tremendously, and I could not be here. The show would not be where it is today if it wasn't for all of you. So I'm incredibly grateful. Now, I'm going to show this clip from Krystal Ball. It's less than a minute, I believe. And then I'm going to come back and break it down.
Joe Biden claims he supports a $15 minimum wage. But if you support it, but you're not actually going to do it, does that really count as supporting it?
No.
Like having a theoretical support for a position, if you're not going to fight for it, doesn't mean a damn thing. And the fact of the matter is, like, I just really want people to understand that this is 100% within Joe Biden's control.
Yes.
If he was willing to expend the political capital, put pressure on Manchin, overrule the parliamentarian if necessary, like if he really wanted to get this done, it would be done. The fact that he's rolling over on what has been a key promise of his presidency to progressives in particular is very disheartening.
I don't see how anybody could disagree with that argument. And it's just weird to me why there's so many people on the left and so many people in left new media who understand how corporate Democrats do this move all the time, pay lip service to things that they know are popular, but at the end of the day, they aren't going to fight for it. So that means that they don't actually support it. They're just milking it for popularity. They seem to understand that about corporate Democrats. But it's like, they won't acknowledge that the same applies to the politicians that you like. And that just because you like the words that they say, just because you might know them personally, or people you're friends with might know them personally, it doesn't make them immune from doing the same type of sleazy politician shit. It doesn't make them immune from being regular ass, self-absorbed, career climbing politicians. So it's weird to me how they're quick to drop the hammer on Joe Biden and say you're full of shit and you don't actually support those policies. But still, after all this year and all the ways that the squad, the Fraud Squad and Bernie Sanders have showed that they aren't actually fighting for regular people like they claim to be, they still are giving them the benefit of the doubt. They're still not willing to say, you know what, enough of this shit. You guys aren't better than any of the rest of the corporate Democrats. You're just a new flavor of the establishment and the status quo defenders pushing incrementalism in the Democratic Party. They refuse to acknowledge this. And in doing so, they're basically broadcasting that, hey, I clearly have some type of bias here. And even though the fact pattern is objectively the same, they're paying lip service to things that they know are popular, and they aren't actually doing anything to fight for it. Even though the fact pattern is the same, I have an entirely separate standard for these politicians. I'm willing to bend into a pretzel and do all types of mental gymnastics to excuse it when they do it because, again, I have some type of personal bias. And even further than that, they will do the same exact thing that Joe Biden's doing with the $15 minimum wage, say they support it and not fight for it. The Justice Democrats are doing this. And then all these people in left-wing media will still tell you, hey, that's why you still got to go donate to these politicians. Follow them wherever they go because they're fighting for left policies. And if you want left policies, you have to support these politicians. Like, what? That makes absolutely no sense. They don't actually support those things that they say. Again, they're just bilking it for the popularity. So the question I want to ask is, okay, Krystal Ball was able to tell as soon as Joe Biden came in office, he was put to the test, hey, you have the opportunity to pass $15 minimum wage. Are you going to do it or are you not? And he chose not to do it. So she made the decision. She came to the conclusion that, hey, Joe Biden doesn't support $15 minimum wage. What will it take for you to draw the same conclusion when it comes to Bernie Sanders and AOC on Medicare for All? Because Bernie Sanders has all but said, he's admitted that we aren't even fighting for Medicare for All right now. What he was asked, and I've covered the video on it, Jimmy Dore did a video on it. Jimmy Dore actually did a video on it based on a tweet of mine where he covered the political interview with Bernie Sanders. And he says, quote, he was asked about healthcare as budget chair and one of the most powerful senators in the country now. He was asked by the political reporter, what are you going to be doing to advance Medicare for All? What are you going to do regarding healthcare? He said, quote, what we will be doing is working in the context of what Joe Biden wants to do. Okay, Joe Biden is vehemently opposed to Medicare for All. Joe Biden was running in an election and said, if Medicare for All, a single payer, miraculously passed the House, passed the Senate, landed on my desk as president, in the middle of a pandemic, in the middle of the worst economic crisis in history, I will veto it because I'm such a tool of the industry. So it's not up in the air. It's not up for debate where Joe Biden stands on Medicare for All. So if Bernie Sanders is going to come out after a year of not doing anything to advance Medicare for All, and he comes out and says, we're going to be doing what Joe Biden wants. Okay, so stop saying Bernie Sanders supports Medicare for All. Stop saying he supports single payer, because what he's saying is we are exclusively going to be working on neoliberal reforms, incremental reforms to the Affordable Care Act. We're going to be doing minor tweaks around the edges. We may lower a price here. We may give some sort of special program to accept a couple people here and there. But we're not really going to overhaul the health insurance system or the healthcare system in this country. We're just going to kind of maintain the status quo, make it a little bit better. That's what Joe Biden is saying he's going to do. So if Bernie Sanders is on board with Joe Biden, stop saying he supports Medicare for all. And the same with monthly recurring checks. What will it take for Krystal Ball? What will it take for Kyle Kalinske to come away with the same conclusion that they did with Joe Biden on the $15 minimum wage? That he was just saying it because it's popular. He was just saying it to pay lip service to a popular policy and to get support. And when the time came to fight for it, he didn't fight for it. What will it take for them to say the same to these elected progressives when it comes to the monthly checks and when it comes to UBI? Because they all say they support it, but at every turn, they're pushing for shitty, neoliberal, means-tested, one-time checks. So what is it? You can't say you support both those things, and you can't say you support one thing, but you're fighting for something that is the complete opposite. That makes no sense. And then Bernie Sanders' budget chair, he could have put an amendment for UBI in the stimulus bill as budget chair and pass it through reconciliation, but he didn't. He chose to go along with Joe Biden's bullshit scam, where he said, "Oh, vote for us, we'll get you $2,000 checks," and then you get it to $1,400 check. Bernie Sanders is going along with that scam from Joe Biden, and he's going to pass a $1,400 check as if that's anywhere near what people need to get through this moment, the worst economic crisis in history. 60 million people lost their jobs, 40 million people going to be evicted. 60% of small businesses that closed because of COVID are closed permanently. The economy has been forever altered. And Bernie Sanders, somebody who claims they support monthly checks, the bare minimum assistance, cash assistance that the government should be providing to all citizens in this country, he won't even take the opportunity, one of the very few opportunities that the Democrats are going to have to pass major legislation when they control the House and the Senate and the White House. He's going to pass up an opportunity to force them to pass UBI, and instead, he's going to go along with their shitty means-tested one-time $1,400 check, and he isn't going to buck them an inch on that. So what will it take for Krystal Ball to say Bernie Sanders doesn't support Medicare for all, doesn't support UBI? I don't know. It's like I said, they are just advertising at this point that they have a very clear bias towards these politicians that they like, and they have a completely separate standard, and they won't hold them to the same standard. They will allow them to do propaganda and say they support something that's popular, and they will come out and say, "Oh yeah, Bernie Sanders, AOC, they support Medicare for all, they support UBI," but really they're doing this literally the same exact policy agenda as the rest of the corporate Democrats. So it's the cognitive dissonance is off the charts here.